Hey there guys, in today's video I'm going to be talking about improving the nutritional content of your feeder insects. This is going to include gut loading your feeder insects and dusting them. So if you've ever been curious about either of those topics or you just want to know a little bit more about them, you want to make sure to stick around because that's going to be coming up right after this. Guys, this is Jack over at Hi Redbird, where I am tirelessly working to find new ways to make the keeping of exotic animals and pets more exciting, more affordable, and ultimately more enjoyable. And in today's video, I am going to be talking about improving the nutritional quality of your feeder insects. Now, this is going to be a topic that is definitely going to apply to a lot of reptile owners because a lot of reptiles are going to be insectivores or insect-eating animals. Now, I know some people will be a little bit squeamish about this topic, or they've come to expect parrot-themed content on this channel. But when I created this channel, I definitely intended it for it to cover a variety of different animal-themed topics. So if you guys want to go ahead and do me a favor, in the comments section down below, let me know what type of animals y'all would most like to see content about. Not only does that give me more information about what you want to see, but having more comments on the video helps YouTube recognize that it's a worthwhile video that other people might benefit from as well. And of course, you can always subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss out. You can like the video if you think it's worthwhile content. But today we are talking about improving the nutritional quality of feeder insects. So the first thing we want to talk about is gut loading our insects. Now that's going to be important because you want to remember when something eats an insect, they don't just eat the insect, but they eat everything that that insect has in its stomach as well. So by giving them nutritious foods, you are going to improve the overall well-being of your reptile, which is just a few steps up on the food chain. We've learned in middle school that what goes into the beginning of the food chain, the different plants, is going to be carried all the way up. So you have a couple of options there. If you have a colony of feeder insects, you're going to want to invest in a higher quality feed. Most feeder insects can survive on nutritionally poor food. Most of them can even reproduce and appear to be thriving on it. The problem is that those insects aren't going to have the same nutritional quality. Now, if you are getting something that you are planning to feed out that day, something like crickets, if you have just a couple of reptiles, it's not worth it to you to have a colony. You may go to the pet store and think, I'm just going to buy some crickets and I'm going to go ahead and feed those out. Well, you can gut load those animals as well, and it's easier than you think. All you're really going to need is a small plastic container. So in here I have some crickets, and you can see for these guys, I've just given them a couple of leaves of collard greens. I did give them some, high quality fish food and half an orange to make sure that they have the hydration that they need. And the benefit of this is I only have to use these animals like this for a couple of hours. You can see they've already been picking at the collard greens. So those collard greens are going to be in their system. Now, you don't have to do this for very long. And you are going to get immeasurable benefits, but there are a couple of things you want to keep in mind if you're going with this system. If you have crickets or something else that you're going to want to feed out that day, if you don't want this container to hold insects for a long time, I'm going to recommend on things like greens, you want to make sure that you use whole leaves of greens. And the reason for that is when it's time for me to pull insects out, if I did shredded greens, this would be a lot more of a mess. But with a whole green, I can lightly shake off the crickets, and then I have better access to them. They do have just the piece of egg crate that came with them when I purchased them at the pet store. So that is going to be a really useful way for handling and transporting them. So gut loading is something that I recommend even if you are just going to be purchasing insects and feeding them out that day. With an hour on some higher quality feed, you are still going to see an improvement in the overall well-being of your insectivore animals. Now, the other thing you want to do is dust your feeder insects. And there are a wide variety of dusts available. You'll find some that are just going to be crushed calcium. You'll find some that are just vitamin supplements. And you can often find some that are a calcium and vitamin supplement all in one. Not every animal is going to need the same supplementation. So I definitely encourage you guys to do your research and find out what is going to be appropriate for the animals that you have. Now, dusting insects is incredibly easy. So I'm going to start just with a reusable plastic container. Of course, you can just purchase a plastic container if you want that as well. You don't have to reuse something, but I always encourage recycling and reusing things. I will recommend, though, since I am using a coffee container, if you guys are going to reuse something that is typically used in your household, make sure that it is going to end up being a food-safe container. You know, you don't want to use something that housed chemicals. You don't want to house something that is going to be potentially problematic. You want to make sure that you clean this container out very well as well. Obviously, with something like a coffee container, I would worry about the caffeine in there transferring to the reptiles through the insects that I'm going to be dusting in here. So you want to make sure you just clean that out very well. You're also going to want to make sure to label it very, very well if it is something that is commonly kept in your kitchen. Because I can tell you guys right now that using a coffee container, there is a pretty good risk first thing in the morning that I would accidentally pull the wrong container to try to make coffee. I can tell you guys right now, the best part of waking up is not cricket parts in your cup. So make sure that's labeled, make sure you are ready to go. Now all you're going to do is you're going to take your dusting supplement. I'm going to recommend adding the dust to the container first. Now the reason for that is if the cap gets away from you, if you add too much to this container, it is a lot easier to try to salvage that surplus dust and to get it back into the container if there are not already insects in here. If you already have crickets, dubia roaches, mealworms, anything like that, it's going to be a lot more work. You guys can see I added just one sprinkle. It really doesn't take much, and that's going to be why I recommend adding a calcium supplement or a vitamin supplement dust to your insects every single time you feed them, because you're not just giving them a daily vitamin supplement like we might take, just not a single pill. This is going to be part of their diet, so it does better if you do small amounts every single feeding. Now this piece of egg crate that I got, I can go ahead and just lightly shake those crickets into there, however many you want to feed at a time. And I have them in the dust. And now all I'm going to do is lightly swirl them around. The goal is not to traumatize the crickets. You just want to get that dusting covering all of your crickets in order to make sure that they are going to be much healthier. And you guys can see as I pick them up, now that cricket has a good layer of dust, so that is going to be something great to feed our insectivore animals. So I do want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. Again, if you did, go ahead, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You don't want to miss out on any of this educational content. I do want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. I do need to say thank you to my Patreon patrons for helping to make these videos possible. You can find out more by visiting Hi Red Bird on Patreon or clicking the link in the description section down below if you would like more information. Thanks!